I do not accept any absolute formulas for living. No preconceived code can see ahead to everything that can happen in a person's life. As we live, we grow, and our beliefs change. They must change. So I think we should live with this constant discovery. We should be open to this adventure in heightened awareness of living. We should stake our whole existence on our willingness to explore and experience. Martin Buber.
Our transition to an interim minister has stirred a lot of questions about what we do at UUFBR. Here's one from me. Why do we call this a worship service? We don't publicly pray to a deity in adoration, supplication, praise, or thanksgiving. Our covenant says that service is our prayer, and our third principle calls for encouragement to spiritual growth. Okay, so what is spiritual growth or universal spirituality?
The first piece, which is the most important, is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers, and when they realize at the center of the universe dwells the Great Spirit, and that its center is really everywhere. It is within each of us. Black Elk.
Spirituality seeks deep connection beyond the physical body. Consciousness questions the universe. Is there anything or anyone out there? Is my body all that I am? Or is there an emergent principle that arises from billions of years of expansion that formed our galaxy? Fusion that birthed our sun? Clumping that created our planet? And evolution that molded our species?
We are like islands in the sea, separate on the surface but connected in the deep. William James.
Emergence happens when the whole is not the sum of its parts. Unique properties and behaviors arise from a collective. Example, from varied types of skin cells emerges the protective barrier when connected together, the largest organ of the body. Emergence occurs when fish school, birds flock, herds stampede, and bees swarm. Emergence also occurs within an individual person and within a community in ever-widening circles. That's how we have science. Physics emerges from philosophy, then chemistry from physics, then biology, psychology, and sociology. Life is emergent.
Everything must break open in order to live. The seed must break open in order for the tree to grow. The egg must break open in order for life to emerge. The earth must be turned and the cloud must burst. You were never meant to stay in your shell.
Thomas Lloyd Qualls.
Consciousness itself is emergent. An awareness of self arises from billions of interconnected brain cells. Spiritual emergence arises from our consciousness facing the difficulties of your life. We call this event a spiritual awakening, the subjective experience in which your ego transcends your ordinary, finite sense of self to encompass a wider, infinite sense of truth or reality.
Awakening is not changing who you are, but discarding who you are not. Deepak Chopra.
Biologically speaking, spirituality happens in the brain. Studies in neuroscience at Yale University revealed that spirituality activates the parietal cortex in the frontal lobe, which happens when you are aware of yourself. Further studies have shown that spiritual experiences shift perception and decrease activation in parts of the brain responsible for stress, while increasing activity in the regions responsible for connection with others. The effect also increases dopamine, the pleasure and reward neurotransmitter. Why is this significant? Sex, drugs, and social media activate those same parts of the brain. However, spiritual growth develops and evolves belief systems, making the results more long-lasting.
The poverty in the West is a different kind of poverty. It is not only a poverty of loneliness, but also of spirituality. Mother Teresa.
Our fourth principle might be our best starting point for spiritual awakening, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning that leads us to explore our 6 sources, these wisdom traditions: direct experience, prophetic women and men, world religions, Judeo-Christian teachings, humanist teachings, and finally, earth-centered traditions. Thus, a UU's spiritual journey is a search for truth and meaning, exploring a wisdom tradition.
You are never alone. You are eternally connected with everyone. Amit Ray.
Can you grow spiritually all on your own? All spirituality builds connections with someone or something other than the self. Thousands of years of philosophical tradition affirms that understanding the self only comes in relation to the other. Martin Buber, the 20th century Jewish philosopher and self-titled Hebrew humanist, had a lot to say about life in this regard.
All actual life is encounter. All real life is meeting. Martin Buber.
To prove his point, I can tell you that I learned more in 6 months working with a team of software developers than in the previous 10 years of coding by myself. Surely an individual can leave a community to seek solitude and the purifying embrace of nature. However, I suspect a spiritual awakening rarely occurs outside of the cultural context of a wisdom tradition in relation to a community.
I believe in God, but not as one thing, not as an old man in the sky. I believe that what people call God is something in all of us. I believe that what Jesus and Mohammed and Buddha and all the rest said was right. It's just that the translations have gone wrong. John Lennon.
Why these 6 sources? They're our vocabulary for speaking in the cultural memes of wisdom and connectedness. When you have a spiritual awakening like John Lennon, you speak in these cultural memes so that others can understand, right? Further studies in brain activity have shown that different spiritual experiences have different effects on the brain. For instance, practices involving letting go, or subjugating one's will to a divine plan, or sacrificing for a common cause, can decrease activity in the parietal cortex, de-emphasizing the self. This indicates spiritual experiences give the brain what it needs at that moment.
Let nothing dim the light that shines from within. Maya Angelou.
Isn't it funny how many spiritual people tell other people how to live based on their own spirituality? Catholic bishops, Pentecostal televangelists, Orthodox religious leaders, and spiritual gurus of all shades will tell you exactly what spirituality you should have. It's the opposite, as we know. Spiritual practice, indeed all subjective experience, tells you more about who you are than it does about anything else. A lifelong journey of spiritual practices is about you meeting your individual developmental needs. So spirituality can be simply stated a personal, emergent need. That is, a pattern of behaviors and beliefs that arise out of your psychological needs. So attend to them.
We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin.
As a person committed to leading and facilitating our fellowship services, I encourage spiritual expressions that lead to engagement outside our services. Still, one question plagues me. How can we search for truth in another tradition and attribute meaning to its rituals when most wisdom traditions are cultural and tribal, grounded in the belief in and in the name of a specific deity? It's not my tribe, it's not my God. How do I interpret the rituals and sacred texts of someone else's religion? Surely not just by perusing Wikipedia. Each wisdom tradition grew out of a multi-century or multi-millennial cultural context. Therefore, I propose that our own spiritual growth can only begin with the starting points we all bring, by revisiting our personal spiritual history before encountering other traditions. Perhaps we each inherited spiritual DNA from our parents and later mutated it through our own experience in the way that Martin Buber suggested. By sharing our personal spiritual history, we remain authentic. By responsibly honoring other wisdom traditions within interfaith dialogue, we remain culturally sensitive. That is a free and responsible search. Anything else may be pageantry, religious appropriation, or worse. My personal spiritual history began in a Roman Catholic family of 11 children. I was an altar server, a cantor, a youth leader, and a praise band soloist. That was my spiritual DNA. I went to seminary for 5 years, Only halfway through to becoming a priest, I attended retreats and worked in soup kitchens, visited the sick in AIDS hospices and hospitals, but somewhere along the way, I became dissatisfied with my life. I had constructed walls of celibacy to keep me in and others out. The program of priestly formation felt too preconceived and preordained for me. I had lost my purpose and needed a real life, a real job, and real love.
Purpose provides activation energy for living. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
This raises another question. Does spirituality have a purpose or a goal? My belief is that spirituality emerges from the human need to connect and get right with yourself and the world. The Indian Journal of Positive Psychology proposes these 12 essential qualities of a spiritual person: positive thinking, inner peace, egoless, unconditional love, optimism, and harmony, humility, responsibility, compassion, justice, simplicity, and reciprocity. If any of these qualities, in my book, arise from your spiritual practice, then you are getting right. And you should be standing up here telling your story.
All journeys have secret destinations of which the traveler is unaware. Martin Buber.
A journey of spiritual growth is a lifelong path of lessons, commitments, failures, a lot of them, and recommitments, awakenings, and extended periods of dryness and loss. This cycle of spiritual growth invariably repeats again and again in our lives.
We can cure physical diseases with medicine, but the only cure for loneliness, despair, and hopelessness is love. There are many in this world who are dying for a piece of bread, but there are many more dying for just a little love. Mother Teresa.
Few people can know what losing a vocation to the priesthood meant to me after 22 years of faith, hopes, and dreams. Upon leaving a Roman Catholic seminary, I had a 7-year relationship with the legendary Miss Florida female impersonator, Tiffany Arriagas. I lived for years in suspended disbelief, working at a t-shirt shop, a mortgage brokerage, and a diagnostic imaging company before finding my passion as a software developer. I sang for 5 years in the Palm Beach Opera and fell into a New Age 2012 doomsday cult before living a crazy, twisted life as an online gaming addict and guild leader on World of Warcraft. That's where I met my first wife and fell in love with my stepchildren. Her choice 8 years later to live with another man, and my choice to adopt my kids led me to a deeper spiritual journey here at UUFBR and meeting Sarah on Match.com in 2017. We got married last December. I share my personal history here as a story of love, messy and painful, entirely unmanageable, but it ends well.
Have enough courage to trust love one more time, and always one more time. Maya Angelou.
Oh, that we might find that one rock, the terra firma in this sea of change, to permanently plant our flag forever in the blessed assurance that nothing could ever shake our confidence again. But that isn't how it works, is it? Maybe the only truth is that final, irrefutable truth will elude you. To plant your flag is to close the debate, to end the discussion, and to cease your search.
We have all known the long loneliness, and we have found that the answer is community. Communities are made up of the unlovable as well as the lovable. Dorothy Day.
The most durable and common path along our UUFBR spiritual journey is commitment. We are building the welcoming and beloved community. These pillars and windows don't build themselves. I shared this with you today because the beloved burden of our commitments can bring joy to our spiritual journey, but what if we're missing something? In busyness, we close ourselves off to our next spiritual awakening.
Through our eyes, the universe is perceiving itself. Through our ears, the universe is listening to its harmonies. We are the witnesses through which the universe becomes conscious of its glory and of its magnificence. Alan Wilson Watts.
Every wisdom tradition has a word for it. Enlightenment, Bodhi, Kensho, and Satori in Buddhism. Kaivalya Jhana, Moksha in Hinduism. Kaivalya Jhana in Jainism and Ushta in Zoroastrianism. Christians would call it salvation, metanoia, and conversion. Islamic philosophy speaks of illumination, by which one comes to spiritual awakening only through the aid of divine grace. Indigenous North Americans of the Great Plains might have what we call a vision quest, to meet the guardian spirit. The oldest Buddhist traditions emphasized anatta, or the non-self, having no soul. But even without a soul, spiritual awakening is encouraged. Scientists call it an aha or eureka moment, an epiphany. Most speak of it as a single event that happens all at once. But spiritual awakening can happen by infinitesimally small degrees until the moment of waking occurs.
Pulsing sensations come out of nowhere, a bubbling brook from feet to heart, then flowing like rushing spring water down arms and out hands. Impossible to conceive waves of energy travel like earthquake tremors originating in some small southern country, making their way through the Earth's crust to another distant continent. A seismic shift so profound, with aftershocks lasting for days, she knows her life is about to change, will never, ever be the same again. Carolyn Chilton Casas.
I want to talk about that. What are the precursors to spiritual awakening? And how can we prepare for that? Most spiritual guides emphasize stages or practices that can spur the moment to arrive. A spiritual awakening has the potential to rip apart the fabric of reality as you know it, and pull you forward into a new life of conscious growth and evolution. It sounds pretty scary, and may sound like a young person's game, but I promise you it's not. What makes it a little less scary? Daily spiritual practice provides the discipline to secure the rapid internal upheaval of a spiritual awakening.
Waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live fully in each moment and to look at all beings with eyes of compassion. Thich Nhat Hanh.
What can a Unitarian Universalist practice? Breathe, for one. There is a trick to it. Breathe with intention and awareness. You don't need a special technique, just breathe naturally. If your breath is shallow, breathe shallow. If you need to breathe deep, breathe deep. Mindful breathing quickly activates the parietal cortex, reduces stress, and releases dopamine. Don't fight your thoughts or silence your mind here. Just breathe in acceptance and breathe out letting go. Do this for 1 minute in between tasks throughout the day, and you'll feel your awareness grow of the world around you, almost like you're more ready for the next moment to arrive. Mindfulness can be in all you do. Maybe that's what Paul meant in his first letter to the Thessalonians when he wrote, "Pray without ceasing."
Everything in the universe has a rhythm. Everything dances. Maya Angelou.
Dance. Move with purpose. Make everything a dance. Don't just get your exercises in. Feel your feet meeting the ground. Feel the forward motion driving you. Don't anticipate the next step. Fully acknowledge each footfall, each contraction of your calves, each swing of your arms. Make each step for its own sake, leaving behind the previous step and making the next step into your new future. Dancing is as spiritual a practice taught by any guru. The place doesn't matter, the pace doesn't matter. If you can't dance, walk. If you can't walk, rock back and forth. What matters is your physical presence and your choice to dance.
Read the best books first, or you may not have a chance to read them at all. Henry David Thoreau.
Read. Explore a wisdom tradition. Start right where you are. See where it takes you. Don't mindlessly scroll to the next algorithmically predicted social media post. Find an actual book. Turn off the binge-worthy streaming services and tell whoever's expecting you that you'll be unavailable for at least an hour. You don't have to agree with what you're reading. Just be intellectually and emotionally available to it. The other day I was reading Native American proverbs and the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple. Openness to new perspectives is the hallmark of a spiritual person. You might even intentionally expose yourself to opposing viewpoints. just for the challenge.
The most precious gift we can offer anyone is our attention. Thich Nhat Hanh.
Listen, be open, judge not. The other person does not exist to be your audience. We exist in order to encounter each other, not the social and news media characterizations of the other. This is the essence of the inherent worth and dignity of every person. To be present with open eyes, open ears, an open mind, and an open heart, and some might say a closed mouth. Words may offend us, let them fly. Actions may hurt us, let them come. Ideologies may separate us, let them fall away. After all the fighting is done, a human person stands right within our reach if we would only listen.
The secret of Buddhism is to remove all ideas, all concepts, in order for the truth to have a chance to penetrate, to reveal itself. Thich Nhat Hanh.
Meditate, make space, leave room. My favorite Zen koan is from Shohaku Okumura. Meditation is good for nothing. You see, it's a clever play on words like a lot of Zen koans. What I like about Okumura's perspective is that it removes the goal-focused objectives of spiritual attainment and intentionally empties the mind solely for the purpose of emptying the mind, to become nothing. The great teachers of the world remind us that you can't fill a vessel already full of itself.
For better or for worse, our future will be determined in large part by our dreams and by the struggle to make them real. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
Engage, get involved, meet someone new, bake cookies, tend gardens, greet new visitors, serve on a team here or a committee there. You use pray by serving one another. Something always needs doing, but it isn't just the doing. It's the growing into harmony that makes the covenant real. We form committees to be present to each other, form consensus, and get things done. We engage our local community with the goal of world community. No one will know that a place like ours even exists if we don't share it out there in the world.
It was easier to deal with poverty and death in India than the lack of spirituality in America. Mother Teresa.
Interfaith dialogue is essential to our mission of global harmony. We are ambassadors for acceptance and the 7 principles. We accept everyone not because everyone is right and everything is all right, but because we are all broken. We all make mistakes and we all come together to fix them. Our presence at the negotiating table promotes justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Equip yourself to build the welcoming and beloved community.
We are all
Connected to each other biologically,
to the earth chemically,
to the rest of the universe atomically.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Spiritual awakenings are not something you can force. There's something you prepare for, write about in your journal, and hold up as the shining signposts of your life. I like to call them the last known address. You know, the first place police detectives look for suspects. When I'm feeling frustrated, lonely, lost, and questioning how I got here, I go back to my last known address. When did I last make a decision for my life? When was my last moment of clarity? Then I try to keep promises I made then to myself and people I love. Spiritual awakenings can be the glue that binds together your internal life if you only stop to breathe, dance, read, listen, meditate, and engage. The emergent spiritual practices of a spiritual person finding a way in a world of mystery and wonder. Thank you for listening.